Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online regulation I VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be featuring one of the most unique teams I've seen on high ladder in Regulation I. It has the crazy combination of Choice Specs Kyogre as well as Choice Band Koraidon, a restricted duo that basically no one uses in this format. This team actually finished in 4th place in the June 2025 ranked season in-game, and first of all, to just do that with this combo alone is already really nuts, and the team also features some really cool elements like Life Orb, attack boosting Iron Shreds, King's Rock Fling Ludicolo as well as Weather Ball, Focus Sash Trick Room Flutter Mane, and Covert Cloak Chi-Yu. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down below, and thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, I'd really appreciate if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a ton. Anyway, let's dive into things. For some quick context, like I mentioned, this team finished in 4th place in the June 2025 rank season, and this is a resource called Liberty Note, which accumulates the top teams and players from every rank season. And so the team really stood out to me because, I mean, first of all, it just has this crazy restricted duo in Kyogre plus Koraidon, but of course it also has Ludicolo and Iron Shreds, and overall I think just it has so many unique elements to it. And so this is a good resource to just keep up with the top teams from the ladder at the end of every rank season. Not every team is published, but normally players that do finish very high showcase the Pokemon and the teams that they've used and also publish them online. So huge thank you to the original creator and congratulations to them for such an incredible in-game finish. Breaking down the team, the first Pokemon I want to highlight here is Ludicolo. Question of the day, by the way, I want to know what you think about Mega Dragonite down in the comments section below. Now, Ludicolo is a really interesting Pokemon. You barely see it in VGC these days, but it was very good in VGC way back in the day and was often actually paired with Kyogre back in the 2010 format. I think it's a little bit hard for it to keep up these days, but of course it has an incredible ability in Swift Swim, right? So when the rain is up, Ludicolo, of course, will be outpacing a lot of Pokemon, and this speed benchmark allows you to outspeed Advent Max Speed Choice Scarf Urshifu, and everything slower than that. So the idea behind Ludicolo is you can use it to flinch Pokemon multiple times. You obviously have Fake Out with the Ludicolo, but you also have Fling plus King's Rock, which is a really cool combination. With this, you are able to often lead Kyogre plus the Ludicolo, Fake Out, Water Terra, Water Spout, and then Fling Water Spout again. Choice Specs Kyogre is truly one of the most powerful Pokemon in the format. If you are able to get 2 full-powered Water Spouts off with this Pokemon, you often will be able to just like win games immediately, and so the Fling lends itself really nicely to it. Otherwise, you've got Weather Ball, which gives you a consistent attack, and with this team having dual Weather in Kyogre and Koraidon, it means you can also catch your opponents off guard with Fire, Terra, Sun boosted Weather Ball, right? And so the Weather Ball, normally I think people expect it to come from the rain, but when Koraidon is out on the field, it actually gives Ludi a very different offensive option. And with Fire Terra, you can obviously chain those multipliers as well, which is awesome. Grass Knot otherwise is really valuable in a format with so many heavy Pokemon. This is mainly going to be valuable into opposing Kyogres, for example, and can also just be a consistent means of damage. So the Ludi, I think, on this team, very much meant for opposing Kyogres. I think like Kyogre Ice Rider teams, for example, Ludicolo can be very, very helpful into. Kyogre on this team is very straightforward. It really wants to just click that Water Spout. You also have Origin Pulse and Hydro Pump, so some other water type attacks for consistency, and Ice Beam to round things out. I think basically, you know, you want to click Water Spout or Origin Pulse most of the time, but if you are up against Wide Guard, for example, then you'll probably consider clicking Hydro Pump or Ice Beam. This Kyogre is also very, very bulky, so it can take attacks a little bit better, as you can see, but you're not going to be very speedy. Same concept as Ludicolo here, where you hit the 112 speed. That's going to be valuable. Flutter Mane, for example, can get 1 or 2 Icy wins off, but keep that in mind. The Kyogre here is really slow, and so part of the reason for this is because you actually have Trick Room on this team, so you can utilize Kyogre under Trick Room, which can often catch opponents off guard. Otherwise, Ludi Kyogre is going to be one of your go-to leads with this composition. You also have Choice Band Koraidon on this team, and this Koraidon is unique because it is not very fast. As you can see, it's Advent, Max Attack, Max HP, so it's a lot bulkier than people expect from Koraidon, but it's also not going to be very fast-paced, right? And so part of the idea is that because you have Flutter Mane on this team, you can just go Flutter Koraidon, Icy Wind, attack with Koraidon immediately, and blow things up. And once again, because you have Trick Room on the Flutter Mane, this also gives you a strong offensive option under the Trick Room to utilize, right? This Koraidon is cool. Choice Band Close Combat Choice Band, Fire Terror, Flare Blitz, and Sun. Like, these two moves are absolutely crazy. Outrage is a really fun move. You normally want to not click this until like end games, but if you've knocked out multiple Pokemon, your opponent doesn't really have good defensive Terras or switches, Outrage becomes very powerful. And then U-Turn is often a really nice move that catches opponents off guard. It can be used to finish things off. It can even be used to, like, you know, actually do a ton of damage into things that are weak to it, like Rillaboom or Chien-Pao, and of course allow for some pivoting as well, right? And so Koraidon here gives you a lot of explosive firepower, and you have this really strong lead of Flutter plus Koraidon as a lead. To round things out, you've got Iron Treads. Treads might seem a little bit weird on this team because you don't have Miraidon, but it's basically used as anti-Miraidon because otherwise Miraidon's actually quite good into the rest of the team. With Iron Treads, you significantly improve your Miraidon matchup, and you can lead Flutter Mane plus Iron Treads, which ends up being a really consistent lead into a lot of Miraidon-based compositions. There's also attack boosting Iron Treads rather than speed boosting, which might seem a little bit weird, but attack boosting plus Life Orb just makes the Iron Treads so much more powerful. Steel Roller becomes an immensely powerful attack. Obviously, it only works when your opponent has terrain, right? So that's why Treads normally being brought out in the Miraidon matchup. Otherwise, High Horsepower is going to be really good into Miraidon, and Wild Charge is a surprise move that you can utilize to attack things like Water Urshifu, for example, opposing Kyogres, Tornadus, just to name a couple of mons. Finally, you've got Chi-Yu on this team. I'll say in my experience, Chi-Yu is probably the Pokemon that I bring the least while playing with this team. It's got a unique moveset of Overheat, Snarl, Taunt, and Protect, and you've got Covert Cloak, and so this is really good against those opposing Fake Outs that you might run into, right? And Snarl is going to be really valuable into things like Lunala. Otherwise, Taunt is good in, for example, shutting down Trick Room, and then Overheat's just really good burst damage, especially when you have Sun coming out from Koraidon as well. But the Chi-Yu ZV spread is actually quite weird as well, where it's like max HP near max defense, and even though it has modest nature, you have no special attack investment, and so don't expect this Chi-Yu to do as much damage, but expect it to be a more support-oriented set. In terms of ways of playing with the team, I think Flutter, Koraidon, Ludicolo, Kyogre, Flutter, Iron Treads are probably three of the leads I go with the most. When you're using this team, I think the first thing you ask yourself is, okay, does my opponent have a Miraidon? If not, I'm probably not bringing Iron Treads. So then you're really picking 4 of the 5, right? And there's obviously clear kind of duos in Ludi, Kyogre plus Flutter Mane, Koraidon, so like it's very easy to pair those with each other. Often I think you can just go like Flutter, Chi-Yu if you don't want to go the Flutter Mane plus Koraidon, and I think there are also games where you can go Flutter, Chi-Yu, Koraidon, and Kyogre, so it's like you have this kind of fun, fast-paced Sun Core, and then you can end the game with Kyogre, right? Now, when using this team, you obviously have to be very careful because there is some anti-synergy with the weathers canceling each other out, right? If the rain is up, Koraidon's not as happy. If the sun is up, Kyogre's not as happy. So I think it's not the easiest restricted duo to execute. That being said, part of the strength here of this is that you have 2 very strong abilities, or, you know, you can take advantage of them really, really well. And so positioning with this team is going to be very important, but it's like often you want to get like one really powerful water spout off or one really powerful close combat off and then use the other restricted to kind of finish off the game. In terms of weaknesses and things to watch out for, first of all, I do think that the element of surprise is a big deal for this team. It is definitely optimized for best of 1 closed team sheet. So if your opponent's seen the team, that is probably going to give you some trouble. You can't protect with a lot of your Pokemon, right? No protect on Kyogre, Koraidon, or Ludicolo. Not being able to protect with either of your restricteds is a really big liability, and so that's something you have to watch out for in particular. I think a really well-played Calyrex Shadow Rider can be scary. You do have Chi-Yu and Flutter Mane to deal with Shadow Rider, right? But like, there's no Shadow Ball in Flutter Mane, and Shadow Rider often will be supported with Pokemon that can give Chi-Yu a lot of trouble, whether it be Urshifu or Zamazenta, for example. And so, yeah, I think a well-played Shadow Rider can be really scary. If they've like been able to chip away at the team, Astro Barrage can kind of just demolish everything, so that's something you have to be careful about. Kyogre in particular really does not love going up against Wide Guard because it means you can't click Water Spout and Origin Pulse nearly as easily, right? And you are prone to missing attacks with Hydro Pump as well. With Water Terra and no Protect, you are going to be immensely weak to Grass type and Electric type Pokemon, so Rillaboom and Raging Bolt are some common examples to name. Koraidon here is a little bit gated by the fact that it's not exactly very fast, unlike normal Koraidons, right? So you do have to be careful about that as well. It also can't protect, and so with this Koraidon, like, you normally want to just knock something out before it gets the chance to move, but be careful about that. Chi-Yu here is not going to be able to dish out the most amount of damage because you don't have special attack investment, so be cautious of that. Flutter Mane can be really good with speed control with Icy Wind. Normal Terra is going to be valuable in a Shadow Rider as well, but sometimes it kind of just doesn't do very much, especially with the lack of Shadow Ball, so that's something that opposing like Lunalas and Shadow Riders can take advantage of. Ludicolo has to be careful about opposing Pokemon that outspeed it, even if the Swift Swim is up. So a good example of this is Choice Scarf Miraidon, where Scarf Miraidon can be annoying for Ludicolo Kyogre, because normally you want to just go fake out Water Spout and then Fling King's Rock Water Spout, but if it's Scarf Miraidon, you might be able to get that first Water Spout off, but then then the Kyogre is just immensely weak to electric type damage and Scarf Electro Drift the following turn. If Ludicolo is outpaced, I think this Pokemon is just not very good, and so opposing Tailwind, for example, can be annoying as well. Tornadus is actually one specific Pokemon I played against that I did not love going up against. And then Iron Shreds in particular does not love going up against Intimidate. That can make it really weak, obviously. And so it's kind of rare for people to bring Incineroar into this con because you have Koraidon and Kyogre, but if you do bring Incineroar, like that can be annoying for Shreds, right? So those are a couple of key things that I wanted to point out. Okay, we've got the classic Miraidon, Ice Rider, Incineroar, Landorus, Urshifu, Amoonguss composition. Popularized by Michael Kelsch. You'll normally see Choice Scarf Miraidon, Sash Urshifu, Life Orb Landorus potentially with Taunt. The Ice Riders, of course, can be Clear Amulet or Leftovers with Leech Seed. One thing that's been trending a little bit, by the way, is Clear Amulet with Leech Seed, but you still run Glacial Lance. But of course, normally it's going to be like either Clear Amulet with Glacial Lance High Horsepower or Leftovers with Leech Seed. So, no weather control on the opposing end, but there's obviously Miraidon. So, that's where Iron Tread should be really valuable, especially with the Ghost Terra. So, I'm intrigued by Treads here. What else do I want to bring? Like, Kyogre under Trick Room is actually interesting. I also actually think we could maybe just go Ludicolo, Kyogre, Treads in the back. Chiyu's not that great here, I think, into Miraidon. Flutter Mane does have Moonblast and Icy Wind. But I think we just go with Koraidon here. I think another possible lead was actually Treads Koraidon and say, you know what, I'm going to use the Sun in the early game, but I think Ludicolo plus Kyogre here has a lot of explosive fire power, right? So they're going to go with Incineroar and the Ice Rider. Okay, that works for me. So one of the interesting things here, I mean, I could obviously just go Fake Out into Incineroar, Water Terra, Water Spout turn 1 here. Like, that feels generally okay. The other thing is I could trade Fake Outs on turn 1, but then just Water Terra, Water Spout. But yeah, I think it's fine to just go Fake Out into Incin, Water Terra, Spout. I guess the only problem with this is if you are Ghost Terra. And then you Ghost Terra to get around my Fake Out. That'd be a pretty sick play. But yeah, they're going to switch. I think switch into Miraidon, Protect Ice Rider is the play. That makes the most sense here. But if they do that, I can just go for Fling next turn. I think we're about to showcase the power of King's Rock Fling. Okay. Also, I'm like low-key wondering if there's any chance Miraidon just fades to this because it's so powerful. Choice Specs, Water Terra, Rain Boosted, Full Power Water Spout. Yep. Okay, so Ice Rider protects. I mean, this lead ended up being really good for us. So here's Fake Out. Now we get mega powerful Water Spout. Okay. Let's see how much this does to Miraidon. It almost just KOs outright there. That's absolutely nuts. Actually, yeah, Ludicolo only hits 224 here, so Scarf Miraidon, unfortunately, is going to outpace us, so they can just Volt Switch or Electro Drift into this slot. But I think what I can do is just switch in Treads then. What do I want to do? Like, I'm curious if they Volt Switch this and Trick Room, essentially. I'm gonna Weather Ball here, switch in Treads. Okay, we'll pivot out. Would have been nice to actually maybe read the Miraidon switch and turn 1 go for like Weather Ball plus Water Spout. Because this felt like the only response they had, basically. Nice. Drift into the Kyogre slot. Beautiful. Weather Ball comes out, and that'll knock out the Miraidon. And that's out of the way. Perfect. And it's Glacial Lands. Okay, nice. We take a lot there on both, but that's okay. You expect them to switch an Incineroar, right? Yep. Okay. This is interesting, because I think you probably want to click Fake Out into this. You know I can Weather Ball into you. I do have the Fling. We're intimidated here. Life Orb. Yeah, like I'm down to Fling here and then switch back out into Kyogre. Because essentially, like, they're still just ultra weak to Origin Pulse right now, right? So... And if they let me get the Fling off and they Fake Out into Treads instead, I think I win the game here on the spot. It's going to be a Terra commit. Okay, I mean, if you're committing Terra, it could be Terra Incin. No, it's Terra Ice, right? Okay, Fairy. Fire, interesting. Huh. I feel like that was necessary, but I guess they wanted to resist Steel Roller, which I think is fair. But now you're obviously weak to Kyogre. So they get the Trick Room up, but at what cost is the question, right? You can knock off Glacial. You could protect this and like get a knockout here, or protect like Parting Shot. I'm now to switch Ludicolo out into Treads, because this allows me for another Fake Out, and then go for Origin Pulse here. Yeah, I think the Fire Terrace honestly kind of surprising, because with the Intimidate, I wouldn't have been able to one-shot Ice Rider anyway. But I'll take it. I guess I did have, like, with an attack boost? Nah, I mean, it's fair for them to, like, want to respect it. Okay, so Protect makes sense. Knockoff, maybe? Nope. U-turn. That's fine. I think, like, switching into Moongus is probably their best bet, but I still don't see how you deal with Specs Kyogre right now, especially with having committed Fire Terror on your Ice Rider. It's Urshifu. Okay. I mean, I probably outspeed Urshifu under Trick Room with Kyogre, right? This is bulky Ogre, so... Like, I think Origin Pulse just KOs everything right now. Just double checking. Yeah, we're 112 speed, so we should outpace, because they're Sash. Normally, you're going to be Adamant max. So obviously, they can go for a Glacial Lance right now. I'm actually okay protecting here and going for Origin Pulse. Yeah, it's like the only thing the opposing team had to deal with the Kyogre was Miraidon, and Miraidon lost 90% of his health on turn 1. So there's Glacial. They're just hoping for Origin Pulse misses right now. We take that. We do manage to miss here, but that's okay. We'll connect on the Urshifu. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine because we're getting to an end game where Kyogre can just come out and then potentially even click Water Spout, honestly. But a little bit annoying. Maybe I should have just locked into Water Spout, honestly, because like it's not like knockoff high horsepower even does that much. So they get the Intimidates off. But there's only 2 turns of Trick Room left, meaning I can just end the game with Ludicolo plus Kyogre. So what I can do here is just go for high horsepower, essentially sack both of these, and then get Kyogre position in, and then I just go Fake Out plus Water Spout. You're going to have to protect the Calyrex slot. Incin gets a knockoff off, but then that's fine. And then Ludi plus Kyogre wins the end game. So I'm actually totally fine losing both Pokemon here to a Glacial Lance. That's okay. Koraidon actually ends up surviving because it's also bulky Koraidon. Nice. Okay. Oh, I actually probably don't Fate to this. Yeah, I mean, that's fine, right? Now we can bring out the Ludicolo. And then we'll just go Fake Out to make sure that the Ice Rider doesn't get an attack off. and then click Close Combat into Incineroar. And then Kyogre now wins the game. I think it's like Amoonguss is the only other real answer to Kyogre in this matchup, but it's not actually even that real of an answer because Water Terra Water Spout does so much damage to it. I try to go for Fake Out. Okay, I'm guessing that was a misclick. Or maybe my opponent just recognizes this game is like over no matter what because I have Kyogre waiting in the back. Cool. We one-shot the Incineroar. Incin obviously could have knocked out either Pokemon there, but if you knock out either Pokemon, Kyogre comes in for free, and then I just Water Spout the end of the game, right? And so, I actually wonder if that was intentional. Like, because, okay, hold on. That actually was pretty smart. I think my opponent intentionally didn't want to get a knockout there, because now they're thinking, well, hey, how are you going to stop me, right? But the answer is actually quite simple. It is this Fling King's Rock combo. So now I can Fling, make sure you don't get an attack off switching Kyogre. Because I think from my opponent's perspective, like, they're thinking, okay, you can't actually win the game with Koraidon Ludicolo. If I get a second Trick Room up, I might actually be able to win the game, which I actually think is incredibly smart. So I'm guessing that's what they were going for. But because we've got Ludicolo with the Fling, this guarantees us the win. Nice. So there's that King's Rock, making sure that Ice Rider is not able to set up Trick Room. It is going to flinch it right now, and now we can just Weather Ball plus Water Spout. So I wonder if that's what my opponent was going for. I actually think that's very smart to intentionally not pick up a knockout that turn. Because like I think it was more beneficial for me to get the free switch into Kyogre immediately. But yeah, I think we did get to showcase the Ludicolo in this game. Just like fast Fake Out immediately to force Incineroar out. Water Terra, Water Spout doing so much damage. Obviously the Origin Pulse made things a little bit dicier. So I think the main debate is whether or not I should have just locked into Water Spout anyway, knowing that I could survive knockoff plus like high horsepower pretty comfortably, and even at like 50 or lower %, like it's still guaranteed to hit. But yeah, it just Origin Pulse is like one of those moves where it's like, it'd feel bad if I like let the lock into Water Spout and like, I don't know, get crit, for example, right? And lose my choice specs. And so Origin like generally felt okay to click. And even though we missed, it was still okay. Better to have missed, I guess, the Ice Rider than the Urshifu. Because if we had missed the Urshifu, maybe it could have gotten a close combat off. That could have been quite scary for us. But yeah, cool to be able to wrap up the game with the Fling here in the end. And I do think my opponent's Fake Out was actually intentional to make sure that I did not get a free switching into Kyogre there. So I think that's actually very clever. Okay, we have a team that's very similar to the team that won the North American International Championships, but actually with Chien-Pao over Urshifu, which is really interesting. Of course, in the initial version of this team, you have choice specs on the Miraidon, Electric Seed on the Lunala, Covert Cloak on Whims. Still makes sense for Chien-Pao here to carry the Sash. Given that it's a Miraidon Lunala composition, I think Treads is okay here. Steel Roller is quite nice. It's interesting because all of our Pokemon are like somewhat decent. I'm thinking like Flutter Treads as the two non-restricteds though. If I lead Treads, then the thing I'm most vulnerable to is something like Whimsicott plus Miraidon. But I think having Flutter with Sash and then Treads lead is nice with Koraidon Kyogre in the back. Honestly, I would love to bait them into setting up Tailwind with the Whimsicott and then Trick Rooming with Flutter Mane. And then getting like Kyogre out under Trick Room. Although I think Wide Guard is something we have to worry about here. It does also feel a little bit weird to drop Chi-Yu here because it's so excellent into Lunala. But I don't love it into the rest of my opponent's team. It is Whims Miraidon. Okay, cool. So this is interesting because I think Tread should put my opponent in a pretty tricky spot. My guess is if you're my opponent, you go for Tailwind and Volt Switch into Flutter Mane. Or you could Hard Switch immediately. But like I could Trick Room Steel Roller turn 1. I could also just Protect here. They could drop a Draco here. They could Hard Switch. If I Protect, obviously, though, I'm vulnerable to Encore. Unless I KO Whims. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for the Trick Room turn 1 here. Steel Roller into Whimsicott. Okay, Miraidon protects. That's fine, though. Beautiful. But Tailwind Protect is kind of surprising. But yeah, this could not have worked out any better for us. Like, the reality is, what I was expecting was for my Flutter Mane to get brought down to Focus Sash with a Volt Switch, but it actually ends up being Protect Miraidon, so it's carrying Life Orb, presumably. That's normally the item you want to run. But now I've gotten rid of your terrain, you've set up the Tailwind, and so now I outpace you under Trick Room, and I get Trick Room up. So my only question now is whether or not they brought Ursaluna, because if you brought Ursaluna, you can obviously use that under Trick Room, but otherwise, that turn 1 alone should actually potentially win us the game. It's going to be Incineroar, that's fine. With Incineroar, Tailwind is up. I mean, I think we probably pivot Treads out, but like, the main thing here is that you could pressure Fake Out into this slot, and this maybe switches out into Lunala. So I could reset the Intimidate, I could Ghost Terra. I probably want to Water Terra this is my guess. I think it's like generally okay to click Moonblast here into the Miraidon slot, and then hard switch Koraidon in. Treads pivots out. But yeah, Protect Tailwind, not exactly the most common move. I think like Tailwind Volt Switch probably would have been a little bit better for my opponent. Now they're like awkwardly in this spot with their Miraidon. Okay, let's see. Okay, they just launched Flare Blitz into Flutter Mane. That's fine by me. So that brings us down to Sash. The Tailwind is up from their end, so I get the Moonblast off before they get the chance to move with Miraidon. That does a ton of damage. And they're going to pivot with Volt Switch. Cool. So I'm expecting Life Orb here, but let's see. Yep. Indeed it is. So now it should be the Lunala coming in. There it is. Yep. Okay, Electric Seed is obviously not active on it yet. Tailwind is up from their end. I would expect Kyogre to definitely outpace them under Trick Room. They could also reverse Trick Room, by the way, with Lunala. So that's one thing we want to respect. I think if I bring out Kyogre, like, I'm always safe to... I can actually lock into Ice Beam, which is interesting. Yeah, it's a question of how fast the Incineroar is. But I think Kyogre should definitely outpace it under Trick Room. So I think I'll go Kyogre first here. With this, now I can go for Ice Beam. Or sorry, not Ice Beam, Hydro Pump. They haven't Terra'd yet, so it would make sense to Terra this, I think. I'm going to want to U-turn out here, I think. Get the Treads in. Don't think I need to Terra yet. Terra Fire on this could be worthy. Yeah, so I'm going to offer a Hydro Pump here into Incin, and then U-turn here to break the Shadow Shield. They didn't Wide Guard, so I could have just Hydro Pumped there. Or sorry, I could have Water Spouted. It's a little frustrating, but it's whatever. And I did end up being faster with Koraidon under Trick Room, so I could have close combated maybe. They actually U-turn out themselves. Yep. And I'm guessing they're going to reverse Trick Room right now. Torque Drive activated. Electric Seed active. Oh, they just Moongeist Beam. Okay, with that, then I feel pretty good about our spot. Despite the Hydro miss, because I survived that. Yeah, I think that was a prime opportunity for them to reverse Trick Room, actually. But I'll gladly take the fact that they didn't. I think the main thing I'm thinking through is you probably expect this to protect, and then you can pivot Instant if I knock this out. Speed order should be Kyogre first. So I think I'm down for... Obviously, I have to click Hydro Pump here. Hydro and high horsepower. Okay, they don't protect. Nice. Specs Hydro connects and KOs. Cool. Wild Charge actually was probably more optimal here, because this could miss. But we do connect. Nice. Yeah, I think Lunala missed the opportunity to reverse Trick Room there. Trick Room reversal could have been kind of scary. If I had knocked out Insane in one shot, Lunala reverses Trick Room, where does the game go from there? Because I think then Life Orb Miraidon is kind of scary, but then I still have Fire Terra Koraidon with Outrage in the end game, which is pretty good. But yeah, the turn 1 obviously worked out super well for us. So I do think that's one of the scary things about using Kyogre, which is that you can miss your Hydro Pump, and when you're up against Wide Guard, like the threat of Wide Guard. My opponent did a great job not clicking Wide Guard, right? I could have just won the game on the spot if I went Water Terra, Water Spout there. Okay, so they're going to knock us off. We end up surviving, but... Cool. Hydro misses again. High horsepower here does connect, though. And that actually one-shots. Was that a crit? Not even. Wow. Attack boosting Treads with that Life Orb. So powerful, even with Intimidate. Nice. Cool. Obviously, some big surprises for my opponents in here, though, with the Protect on the Miraidon, and then being the Life Orb sat rather than Choice Specs. I feel like Life Orb Miraidon is something that has been picking up a little bit in popularity recently, so it's not a total surprise, but I'm glad to demonstrate what Treads can do in a matchup like this, where we were able to use it to pressure the Whimsicott and scare the Miraidon away as well, right? I think like Miraidon naturally is going to run Draco, Volt Switch, Electro Drift, and so it's like, okay, your 2 electric type attacks don't do anything into us, and then Draco Meteor you don't love using either. So I was expecting either Tailwind Volt Switch turn 1 or you Hard Switch, but it ended up, because the reason you would Hard Switch, by the way, is because if I protect Flutter Mane and you Volt Switch into it, then I can just high horsepower KO you immediately, right? So I thought like Tailwind Volt Switch bring out the Lunala made sense, but yeah, we were obviously able to set up Trick Room, bait them into setting up Tailwind, and that was really good. Miraidon, Zom, Chien-Pao Hands, Volcarona, Whimsicott. Into Miraidon teams, I almost always go Flutter Mane plus Treads, and that feels decent here. I think in this case, Chi-Yu has some use case, but I think Flutter and Treads are both too good to drop, so yeah. Basically, the idea behind Flutter Treads is a lot of times people lead Whimsicott Miraidon, right? And they go like Tailwind Volt Switch, but then you can just Trick Room plus attack. Another option is actually protect Flutter Mane, high horsepower, just get rid of the Miraidon immediately. But that's kind of the normal game plan I have into Miraidon compositions. I think the Iron Hands here is kind of a wild card. I'm not sure they're going to bring it into this matchup, but, you know, I could see them bringing it if they had like a Water Terra on it or a Grass Terra. Although Grass Terra I wouldn't mind because Koraidon can deal with it pretty effectively. But, yeah. You know, it's obviously pretty rare to see like solo Treads without a Miraidon, but it is specifically designed for matchups like these, where if you look at its offensive coverage, it's just kind of insane, right? I can Steel Roller Whimsicott, Chien-Pao, I can high horsepower Iron Hands, as well as the Miraidon. One interesting lead that I have gone up against is like Miraidon Volcarona, in which then Ludicolo Kyogre ends up being a lot more effective, because you can just fake out the Miraidon Water Terra Water Spout turn 1. But we'll see what they go with. Whimsicott Miraidon, perfect. Okay. I think the main debate here that I often have on this, do I want to protect with Flutter Mane and high horsepower, right? Because it often ends up being like Tailwind Volt Switch. But they could hard switch the Miraidon out, right? So the hope I think here is to bait them into Tailwinding, and then I just KO Whimsicott while setting up Trick Room. But yeah, like I said, the other alternative is just protect here. High horsepower turn 1. I think I'm down for that. Okay, they don't switch or Terra, which is a great sign. Beautiful. It's just Electro Drift. And crucially, they didn't Tailwind with Whimsicott there, so Trick Rooming may not have actually been ideal. Perfect. Double up into Flutter Mane. Beautiful. High horsepower connects. One hit KO onto Miraidon. Great start. Okay. I think now you could obviously bring out... That was a gutsy play by them, by the way, because I could have gone like Icy Wind high horsepower. Now I'm intrigued by the potential Trick Room option. You could obviously bring out Zamazenta. If you bring out Zama, though, what I could do is Ghost Terra and then switch Flutter Mane out. I think I'm down for that. Switching Kyogre here. Ghost Terra. Steel Roller into Whimsicott. I also think high horsepower onto Zamazenta is not a terrible option here. But now, like, by doing this, I conserve Focus Sash Flutter Mane, which is nice. And I mainly want to respect the Encore here. I also think it's very unlikely to be Focus Sash on Whimsicott since there is a Chien-Pao on their team. So it's like if Treads can get 2 quick knockouts, that's obviously a pretty good start for us. I also think it's unlikely for Kyogre to just eat up a Body Press right now, which is why I'm also willing to go for this. Okay, it's going to be a Terra from their end. Fine by me. Probably Terra on Zama. And you are Water Terra. Okay, that's probably one of the worst Terras for us to run into. Like, I would have much preferred Dragon, but it's fine. I can at least Wild Charge you, which is cool. So, hoping to see an Encore come out here. If Encore comes out, then I just knock out Whimsicott and you don't have Tailwind, so then Flutter can just Icy Wind in this endgame. Let's see. Oh, wow. They go for Encore, but onto Treads. That's a nice play. I like that. Heavy Slam. Okay. Still pretty good damage from high horsepower, admittedly. I do not mind that. You can obviously Heavy Slam this. Kyogre has Specs Ice Beam. I could also, like... I mean, low-key, I can just Wild Charge this, right? I think I'm going to just go Specs Ice Beam into you. Wild Charge in... Oh, I can't. I have high horsepower. I'm locked into high horsepower, of course. I kind of want to go for Origin Pulse then, honestly. High horsepower. Yeah, Heavy Slam barely dents us there. Nice. Oh my gosh, Treads, you are so clutch! Survives the onslaught there. I miss Origin Pulse, okay. Double miss? The crazy thing is it could have been Water Spout there, but obviously I wanted to respect Body Press coming out. Oh, now you can Wide Guard Moonblast. That sucks, but I think it was still okay to click Origin there. It's like if we hit either, I actually feel totally fine with the position. It's a bummer though. Okay. Oh, they don't Wide Guard. Nice. Okay, they split their damage. That's fine. And you saw how much I took from that Body Press, right? That's exactly why I did not want to click Water Spout that first time around. Okay. 3 for 4 on misses. Kinda sucks. I think we bring out Flutter right now. With Focus Sash, I can actually threaten with Trick Room. It's Chien-Pao's the last one, yeah. It's really annoying because it can Sucker Punch and Icicle Crash. Is there ever a world in which they Tailwind here? Oh, if we had hit either of the Origin Pulses, this would be in Moonblast KO range. My life would be so much easier, I think. I can't Trick Room because like they can just Encore me, right? Which is the problem. Just gonna go for Icy Wind Origin here. They did Sucker Punch, yeah. I mean, I think it's actually still okay. Let's see. Okay. This is one of those games. But you're gonna miss moves when you use this team. So, yeah. Is there any way I can get out of this? Like, because I have Trick Room, I wonder if my opponent ever messes up here, but, like, I think they can just Moonblast plus Sucker Punch this. But I'm like, if for some reason they, like, click Tailwind, Sucker Punch, or Ice Skull Crash, we could win. If they miss, like, Crash, for example, or I survive. I think I'll Flare Blitz Whimsicott here. Trick Room. Yeah, and they had Covert Cloak on Whim, so they don't eat the speed drop either. Oh, but they didn't Sucker Punch. Wait, but they could miss Ice Skull Crash, right? It's just Ice Spinner. I could have protected Flutter Mane there and actually won the game then. I think it was still correct to click Origin Pulse because either of those Origin Pulses would have put Whimsicott in KO range of an attack from Flutter. I actually probably survive Ice Spinner here with Koraidon, but because I missed the Icy Wind on Chien-Pao, I also can't KO it. So, it's an unfortunate game. Yeah, actually it does manage to still KO me. Okay. But, yeah, I mean, if the first Origin had connected, we would have just brought Whimsicott down to, like, 30%, knocked out Zamazenta immediately, which would have obviously been pretty good. And because they didn't target Kyogre there, then you don't knock out Kyogre the next turn, right? Like, their only way of handling Kyogre was to get a big body press into me, and, like, the miss allowed for that. But it's not like I had a 100% reliable option, because it's not like I want to click Ice Beam in that position, and Hydro Pump's accuracy is actually even worse than Origin Pulse, right? So the other alternative would have just been clicking Water Spout in that spot, but obviously with me risking eating up a body press there, that could have been really rough. So I do think that's one of the biggest downsides of this team, which is that the Kyogre, when you are up against a potential wide guard user, normally wants to click Hydro Pump. Here I made the call that, like, I was like, okay, I don't care if you wide guard, because then it means you're not getting an attack off with Zamazenta. But yeah, the downside, unfortunately, is that you will miss moves sometimes, and we just happen to miss 3 or 4 Origin Pulses and that Icy Wind. But yeah, it's one of those games, and that's Pokemon for you. Koraidon, Ice Rider, Flutter Mane, Raging Bolt, Chi-Yu plus Incineroar. I think this is very similar to the team that Shoma Honami used to get second at a big Japanese tournament recently. I actually just featured the team that won that tournament on the channel, but if I remember, he used Koraidon, Ice Rider, which is not exactly the most common restricted duo. I think Raging Bolt is scary here because it's Water Terra Kyogre with no way to get around Thunderclap. That being said, it's super bulky Kyogre, so I can leverage that to my advantage. We both have Flutter Koraidon, but my Koraidon's going to be quite slow here. I'm like actually thinking if Ludicolo can provide any value for us here. The answer is probably no. Like, it probably has to be the top 4 Pokemon, but Ludi is mainly intriguing to me because I can surprise my opponent with Fling. Honestly, like, Fake Out plus Fling as a combo is a big enough deal to consider bringing Ludi. Covert Cloak Chi is also interesting as anti-Fake Out. I think I'm going to go Flutter Koraidon lead, Kyogre Ludi in the back. And the idea is for the Sun to be eliminated in the early game, so then Kyogre can take advantage of the rain in the end game. Yeah, I think, like, Treads, I actually thought about bringing, but, like, the reality is if I'm bringing Treads, it's literally only to click high horsepower. And I think Chi-Yu could work here, but I don't love it. That being said, against this lead, it actually would have been quite excellent with Snarl immediately. Although, I mean, this is still fine. I think the main question I have is what kind of Ice Rider set this is and what Terra you are. Because what I'm thinking is with Choice Band Close Combat, I want to double up into Ice Rider turn 1. So go for Moonblast here and Close Combat. Fire Terra gets around, but Draco probably still KOs me anyway, truthfully. The other thinking here is I can just target Raging Bolt, right? But I think, like, Protect here, Trick Room with Calyrex makes a lot of sense as one option. I'm going to go all in on knocking out Ice Rider turn 1. Because if you're my opponent, you're probably thinking, yeah, exactly, Bolt protects. Like, hey, it could be a double protect here, theoretically, though. Let's see. No double protect. No Terra on Calyrex is kind of surprising, but I'll take it, I guess. Beautiful. And that's where you run Choice Band on Koraidon. So basically, like, if you're my opponent, both of my Pokemon really threaten Raging Bolt, right? And you're also probably thinking, if I lose Raging Bolt, that Kyogre in the back is just absolutely going to run me over. And so I figured it would make sense for Raging Bolt there to consider just going for Protect on turn 1. Now they bring out their Flutter Mane. That's fine. I think the main thing I'm thinking through is, do I want to just, like, I could Terra Koraidon and just Icy Wind Close Combat right now, right? Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards. That feels fine to me. I think the only thing I'm worried about is they go Electric Terra, Bolt, Thunderclap, and, like, Shadow Ball onto my Koraidon. If they did that, then the right play would have been to maybe switch out into Ludicolo, but I think this could just be a game-winning play on the spot right now. Because like I said, what I was trying to set up for in this game is an endgame where I have the rain up. To do that, I need to force their Koraidon to hit the field first, right? And obviously, like, there's some awkward synergy between the Koraidon and Kyogre on my team, but that's why I wanted to lead the game with Koraidon so I could end the game with Kyogre. Ah, they just Thunderclap Flutter. Okay, that works. Cool. Potential speed tie between us there, but I end up moving first. Great. Yeah, now I feel very confident in our ability to close out the game. So, they went all in on knocking out Flutter Mane, which I think makes sense here. But to me, the bigger threat was always to eliminate the Raging Bolt, so this is fantastic to get this out of the way. Cool. Now I should win the Weather War. Koraidon should be in the back from their end, obviously. You have a speed drop on the Flutter Mane. It's actually an interesting debate of who I want to go out into first, but I think it's okay to just go into Kyogre here. Okay. They bring out their Koraidon, and now we've won the Weather War. Nice. Beautiful. No more photosynthesis. Like, I think I can just stay in with both of these, right? Because you're at -1 speed. If you KO this, that's fine. Kyogre gets an attack off. Like, I think I'm okay clicking Water Spout here and Close Combat into Koraidon. Okay, they just Collision Course. Nice. I mean, that should be game over because regardless of what Flutter Mane does, like, I'll lose my Koraidon here, and it actually doesn't even faint, which is kind of nuts. Speaks to how bulky it is. That almost one-shots their Koraidon. Choice Band Koraidon was incredible in this game. It just demolished everything. Yep, they Moonblast, but Spout just double KOs now. That was a crit, but that's fine. Crit special attack drop. Okay. But that's okay. It does mean the Flutter Mane survives, but now I have Ludicolo in the back to end the game, so still okay. Yeah, to me, I think it was just kind of surprising they didn't Terra in this game. Terra Fairy Ice Rider is a thing, so they Terra Fairy that on turn 1 in Trick Room. It could have been kind of awkward, but yeah. I know I have Ludi in the back, so I actually just want to stay in with both and make sure I don't reset my own weather right now. But yeah. My expectation was like, hey, look, if you Collision Course into the Kyogre and Moonblast into it, well, Close Combat still does a ton of damage into your Koraidon, right? And I think, like, I did not actually want to reset the weather on my end. Like, so I was like, I'd rather have Koraidon stay on the field. If my opponent ignores it, then it gets a ton of damage off, right? If you protect Koraidon, Water Spout should KO the Flutter Mane, unless you get the crit and the special attack drop, which they actually did end up getting. But then that means my Koraidon still hangs around for a little bit longer, right? So I guess their best play would have been if they had Protect on Koraidon to go for Protect with it and then hope for the special attack drop and the crit, which is, like I said, kind of cut nuts because they got it. But then it's okay because then I still have Ludicolo in the end game, right? And so I still feel decent about it. Although it could be a little bit scarier in a world where the Ludicolo comes out and I haven't actually gotten damage off into the Koraidon because their Koraidon moved before mine. But yeah. Okay, Landorus, Kyogre, Zamazenta, Tornadus, Rillaboom, and Chien-Pao. A lot of scary mons to deal with here. I think Tornadus is definitely one of them. Tornogre, Tornlando. I think both scary leads. I could just go Ludicolo Kyogre in this one, honestly. The other approach I'm thinking is setting up Trick Room, like baiting them to set up Tailwind and then getting Trick Room up. So I actually do think Flutter is an important part of the equation, but I'm still thinking of like Kyogre, Ludicolo lead, Flutter, Koraidon in the back. I think Chi-Yu doesn't feel that great here. It's interesting because like with Grass Terra and Sun Up from Koraidon, you could actually turn Chi-Yu into a really valuable option. And it's not very intuitive, right? But it could work. That being said, still not the easiest to execute. And I think the Treads just doesn't really do too much for us here. It's ultra weak to Kyogre, right? I can't Terra to get around Water Spout, and it's not like I have speed control to easily deal with the Kyogre, so. Okay, it's going to be Tornadus plus Kyogre. That's fine by me. I mean, I would love to just straight up go for Water Terra, Water Spout here and fake out turn 1. Flutter and Koraidon in the back. They should have Zom. Question is whether or not this is like Covert Cloak or not. Kyogre could even switch out here into like Rillaboom, for example. Okay, I'm gonna go fake out Water Terra Spout. They stay in, which I think is a good sign. The main question I have here is whether or not Tornadus wants to go for a Tailwind or a Bleak Wind on turn 1. Because I could have also gone fake out onto Tornadus and then Water Spout. Okay, Kyogre does protect. Is Tornadus going for a Bleak Wind? I'd be fine with them Tailwinding here, I think. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I think this play makes a lot of sense, especially if you are Covert Cloak on the Tornadus. It just guarantees that you get Tailwind up immediately. So, the next turn is going to be interesting, I think. Okay. Yep, no Sash on Tornadus, so that's out of the way. So I think it makes sense to switch in Zamazenta right now. Yep. Okay. I think I honestly want to switch in Koraidon right now. I mean, I could just stay in Water Spout, right? If I were them, I would consider, like, body pressing. They honestly might not target Kyogre, so I'm actually thinking about there's, like, a world in which I just stay in with both Pokemon here as well. But I think, like, logically it makes sense for them to Terra Kyogre defensively and then, like, body press into Kyogre. I just don't want Koraidon eating up a body press right now. Okay, I'm gonna switch in Flutter here. And Grass Knot into Kyogre. And then I can protect with the Flutter Mane the following turn. Yeah, here's the Terra commit from their end. Okay. Terrazama. Okay. Dragon, maybe? Grass. That's fine. Grass is actually great for us because now it means the Flare Blitz from Koraidon should be very good into them. And they Wide Guard. Beautiful. Okay. That's fantastic for us. Wide Guard Thunder. Great. Flutter doesn't even lose half its health there. No paralysis either. That was a fantastic turn for us as we get Grass Knot. Look how much damage that does to Kyogre. Okay, so this Kyogre's moveset is Protect Thunder. Where do I want to go from here? 3 turns of Rain left. I think it makes sense to, like, Body Press into this slot, right? Can't really stop the Body Press from coming. They might Thunder again. I actually think it's okay switching Flutter out into Koraidon right now. I'm thinking about going for Weather Ball into Zom to get some damage onto it. Yeah, I'm down. Although I suspect they should Body Press into Ludicolo. I think the other logical play for them is Protect Kyogre and then Heavy Slam into the Koraidon, which is partially why I wanted to switch it in here. Cool. Speaking of Bash, perfect. And Thunder into Ludicolo does connect in the sun. That's fine. Doesn't even do half to us. No paralysis either. And we get Weather Ball now. Perfect. Oh my gosh, look how much damage that does. Sweet. I think this game is showcasing why the Ludicolo on this team is really cool, right? Like, first of all, it matches up incredibly well into opposing Kyogre. And let's see. Last turn of Tailwind on their end. You obviously have Body Press available. I can't Protect, unfortunately, with Koraidon, but that's okay. Flutter Mane should be able to Moonblast these in the end game. I think I'm leaning towards U-turning into Zamazenta. And Weather Balling it. Okay, cool. Body Press into Ludi. That's fine. Crits me there, but that's okay. I mean, if I KO Zama, it just opens the door for my Kyogre once again, right? So, yeah, it's just Thunder coming out. Beautiful. No paralysis. Great. And Choice Band U-turn gets that KO and allows for some repivoting here. Perfect. I think I'm going to go Flutter Mane here first. I want to see what they bring out as their final Pokemon, and then I can decide whether or not I want to go into Koraidon or Kyogre. But yeah, I think the thing is, in this game, the Grass Terra plus the Wide Guard was probably a little unnecessary, because, like, I think you can just go for one of the two, essentially, right? So Tailwind Peters out. We've effectively stalled it out. Oh, I guess, yeah, I won't be able to actually see what they bring in. I have to bring in something as well. I have Icy Wind Pressure. We've already Terra'd. It could be Landorus. Could be Chien-Pao. I think I'm okay going to Koraidon here. It is Chien-Pao, yeah. Okay, that's fine. Obviously Threaten with, like, Icy Wind plus an attack. Honestly, I think their Kyogre is kind of useless here. I low-key think Trick Room can be interesting here. Because, like, Sun is up. So basically, if you're my opponent, you should want to Sucker Punch into Flutter Mane, right? So what I could do is Trick Room here. U-turn out. What could go wrong if I go for that, right? They just attack and don't go for Sucker Punch. I just feel like you honestly have to Sucker Punch here. Yeah. Trick Room, U-turn here. Because otherwise, like, I could just Icy Wind. Yep, exactly. Cool. And pivot out. Oh, you know, the one awkward thing here is by U-turning. I'm also faster with the Koraidon, which is good to know. But I do set up the Rain now. But I think this is okay, because I don't think my opponent can handle full HP Kyogre in this endgame. But yeah, it's like if they were to click Origin Pulse here, then they can obviously knock out Flutter Mane. So let's see what they go for. Okay, it's Thunder into the Kyogre slot. I eat up a lot of damage, but that's fine. It actually finally does paralyze me. setup. The U-turn there, by the way, was like, I figured they'd have to Trick Room, but I figured Kyogre might also protect in that position. I obviously could have just knocked out Kyogre there outright. You do threaten me with Sucker Punch onto this slot now. And then Thunder or Origin Pulse into Flutter Mane. But I think it's okay because endgame Koraidon's looking pretty good. But I think for insurance, we can go for a Protect here. And, I mean, they could sucker into this slot, right? And then Origin Pulse. I think it's okay to go for Protect here. I'm actually thinking about Ice Beaming, but they could Protect Chien-Pao in this position. So I'll just Origin Pulse. Okay, it is sucker into Kyogre. KOs us. That's fine, though. Nice Thunder onto the Koraidon slot. Ended up taking, obviously, more than I would have liked there. It's actually Hydro Pump on their Kyogre. Okay. Yeah. So my expectation of Trick Room was, like, to get Kyogre in for free and then just click Water Spout, but because they actually thundered the Koraidon, partially because they're probably like, I don't really have a better option, I actually end up getting punished fairly heavily for that. So, like, U-turn onto Kyogre there into Trick Room would have won me the game, I think, but Kyogre always had the option to potentially Protect in that position, obviously. They could Sucker Punch once again. They could just Ice Skull Crash. Hydro Pump Thunder, though, is fairly weak here. I think I'm actually going to reverse Trick Room here. And then U-turn into Chien-Pao. Yep, Kyogre Hydro Pumps, that's fine. Flutter survives, beautiful. The endgame was a little bit awkward for us, honestly, because I think I was predicting Kyogre to potentially Protect in that position. My Koraidon could have just easily knocked out their Kyogre, but we still managed to end up winning the game. Part of it was that, like, this Kyogre honestly just had a miserable time this game, right? So I can Moonblast and U-turn now. So, yeah, I think the key turn was, like, I didn't want to Trick Room plus target the Kyogre slot and then have Kyogre Protect. And have Chien-Pao knock out. Well, I guess if Chien-Pao knocked out Koraidon, it would have been fine, right? But in my head, I was like, if I get this U-turn off, then regardless of whether or not I have Sun or Rain up in the endgame, I should be able to win. So I think the endgame was a little bit awkward, but we had a really big lead, and so there were a lot of different ways to have played it out. Trick Room Flutter was pretty cool here, but yeah, it was like kind of awkward that Kyogre managed to pivot in and then just eats up with Thunder and Thunder plus Sucker Punch KOs. I actually thought Kyogre might be able to survive that combo, by the way, as well. Like, I wasn't 100% sure Sucker Punch would get the knockout from the range that we were at, but I thought Ludicolo did a great job in this game where it was able to pressure Fake Out, forcing the Protect out of Kyogre right away, and then being able to get Grass Knot and Weather Ball for really significant damage off as well. Kyogre, Ice Rider, Flutter, Urshifu, Landorus, Smeargle. Ludicolo's purpose on this team was actually meant for Kyogre Ice Rider, so I want that. I think I might honestly just go Ludicolo Kyogre here. Koraidon Flutter. Koraidon Shiyu might make more sense here. Reason being, Shiyu and Sun is decent here. Right? I can get an Overheat off into Ice Rider potentially. Treads is not great because I can't Steel Roller, so we eliminate that from the equation. So then, yeah, it's between Flutter and Shiyu. Like, Flutter doesn't have Shadow Ball here, so it's not as effective. It is interesting from, like, the perspective of being able to Icy Wind, which is good into Landorus. That actually might be enough reason to justify bringing it, but it's going to be Smeargle Ice Rider lead. Okay. Feels like a fairly straightforward Fake Out Smeargle Water Spout turn 1. They will probably... I think if this is Spiky Shield Smeargle and Defensive Terra Ice Rider, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble, but I think I still go for this. Like, if they have it, they have it. Most Smeargles these days carry Fake Out, Follow Me, Spore, Decorate, right? And so if that's your moveset, I get the knockout onto you. Ghost Terra would also be very good on Smeargle right now. So Yeah, if they are Ghost Terra, I actually do think you send it with Ghost Terra here. And go Ghost Terra, Spore Kyogre, Trick Room with Ice Rider. Or maybe even just Glacial Lance immediately. So, this is a really volatile turn 1. I think, like, I generally favor my position, but there's a lot that they could have that could scare me, right? Like, Spiky Shield, Water Terra, or Dragon Terra, Grass Terra, Ice Rider, Trick Room turn 1 is one. But it's going to be Kyogre Terraing first, so that should be Terra on the, Ice Rider then, which is good. I'd rather see that than the Ghost Terra. Indeed is the Grass Terra on the Ice Rider. Okay. I think this is tough, right? Because if I go for Fake Out onto Ice Rider, then I just get hit by a Spore or a Fake Out. It's a lot of damage, but now the awkward thing is playing the game from here. Honestly, my question, though, is how fast is your Kyogre? Because my Kyogre is not fast. Right, so they set up Trick Room. Yeah, they bring out their Kyogre. Obviously, you can Glacial Lance right now. We're the exact same speed at 112 here. Can't protect either of these. I mean, I think I could pivot Ludicolo out into Chi-Yu and just sacrifice it while Water Spouting. But yeah, now it's a battle of whose Kyogre is faster under Trick Room. They could also be Seed Bomb, which would be really bad. Oh, they're Iron Ball. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It's not good for me, though. Okay, I mean, I at least survived this, but switching Chi-Yu activated Beads of Ruin, which was probably a little bit less than ideal. I don't know if that really makes a difference, honestly. Can't Ice Rider either. That sucks. If I stayed in with Ludi there, I may have been in better shape because I would have been able to knock out Ice Rider and then bring out Koraidon and win the Weather War. I'll send out Ludi right now. Iron Ball Kyogre is cool. It makes this match actually really hard, I think. Because it's hard to, like, stop Smeargle Ice Rider, right? They get a more or less guaranteed Trick Room. Well, I guess Ludi Chi would have been my solution. Fake out Taunt turn 1. But it's not an intuitive lead to bring here. I mean, honestly, they can just double protect right now, right? Yeah, I think I'm gonna hope for a mistake here. And that they, like, protect Ice Rider, but don't protect Kyogre, and I KO Kyogre. Ice Rider does pivot. Okay. Into Urshifu. And Scout. Can I have a shot if I switched my Kyogre out there? I don't think so, but... yeah. Like, I think I still lose because Koraidon now... I needed to not Terra my Kyogre here. And then save my Terra for Koraidon in the end game. We don't even knock them out there. Although, that could be beneficial, theoretically? Question mark. Wait, there's, I think, maybe an opportunity with this. Because basically, their Kyogre now is not that powerful. It's also a question of how fast their Urshifu is. Like, we're pretty slow with Ludicolo, so you'd expect us to outpace. What we want to do, though, is not get a knockout onto either Pokemon right now, which seems really weird. But it denies them a free switch-in. Alternatively, we can predict that they just like switch in the Calyrex. Like, I have Fling, so basically I want to Fling into Urshifu. The question is, do we think Kyogre switches, or do we think they hope for us to knock them out? Because what I actually want to do is Fling U-turn. Okay, they don't switch, which is good. But they land Thunder, which is not good. But they paralyze us, which is good, because now I outpace you potentially under Trick Room. But I get paralyzed! Oh, my play would have worked because they didn't switch into Ice Rider either. Oh, that would have been so sick. Basically, man, the Thunder Connect into Para into full Para sucks. What I intentionally wanted to do this turn was I recognized that there's 2 turns of Trick Room left, so after this turn there's 1 turn left. If they don't get the free switch into Ice Rider, then suddenly next turn I have double KO pressure, right? They, like, granted, like, had this out where they hit 2 Thunders, but now I lose because basically, like, I knew that if Ice Rider got out with 1 turn of Trick Room, I always lose, right? So the idea is with Fling there, I prevent you from actually switching out, and it would have worked, but I got Thunder Para into full Parad. That's so unfortunate. Wow. Oh. That was about to be the sickest play, too. That's Pokemon for you, though. Yeah. Because basically, like, they could have won that game if they hard switched Kyogre into Ice Rider, but I think if you're thinking for my opponents, then you don't want to make that play, because then you can just potentially give up Ice Rider, and since they had U-turn on Urshifu, I think it makes a lot of sense. I actually think, like, the play that they got was literally the one that saved them. Because if they did not get that Para, I flinch Urshifu, right? I U-turn so you don't get the free switch in immediately. And because they actually paralyzed me, if they didn't, like, then I would have outsped the Kyogre. Oh, actually, with Iron Ball, I probably still don't outspeed. So they would have needed to hit another Thunder. But it's like, yeah, I feel like the odds are actually more in our favor there, because in order for them to come out of that position positive, they need a double Para. Or Para into full Para. Sorry, not double Para. They need 2 Thunder connects in the Sun, or they need Thunder Para into full Para, which is what they got there. So let's see, like, basically, if Thunder didn't paralyze me there, Ludi should outspeed Urshifu under Trick Room, so then I Fling to prevent you from U-turning, right? King's Rock activates, and then I U-turn into that slot, once again, intentionally, because I don't want to get a knockout. U-turn into Urshifu is the only move I can click to make sure that happens. Then the next turn, Kyogre then can go for Thunder again onto Ludicolo, so it's like, if I dodge one of the 2 Thunders there, then I think I actually end up winning that one, maybe. If they hit both Thunders, I think obviously I just lose the game there. Yeah. And then I'm assuming they were min-speed Kyogre there, but that was really, really close. Ooh, I wonder if this is Kean Campbell, who's been one of the best Zacian Kyogre players this season. The name matches up, and he has basically been using this team, and I believe like won a Victory Road tournament with it. Definitely, yeah, like when I think of the best pilots of this composition, he's number 1. Zacian Ogre, I don't have a ton of experience fighting against this with this composition. I think Roaring Moon is scary as well. I'm actually like low-key thinking I want to bait him into setting up Tailwind and then getting Trick Room up with Flutter Mane. That's kind of how I'm parsing it out. Ludicolo is interesting. Like, basically, I think like Ludi Ogre works in a world where Roaring Moon does not come out here, but I feel like Moon should come out, right? I feel like I should actually be bringing Ludicolo here. Roaring Moon plus like, what, Amoonguss? Zacian? Could work. Flutter Ludi, Flutter Korai. Okay, I'm down for Flutty, I said. Flutter, Ludi, Koraidon, Kyogre. I have to say, like, I'm a little bit intrigued by Chiyu in this one. Treads generally isn't going to come out in this matchup. Like, the reason I'm intrigued by Chiyu is because I can Grass Terra into Kyogre and then, like, Overheat if the Sun is set up into Amoonguss, into Zacian, into Chien-Pao. If I'm him, I'm going Chien-Pao Moon, probably. Zacian Ogre. Moon plus Zacian, okay. by acrobatics. I'm hoping to bait out Tailwind here on turn 1. I want to... Like, I would love to Trick Room and hard switching Kyogre as one option. I'm just worried that, I don't know, just like Ludicolo eats up a Play Rough immediately, for example, but I think it's kind of hard to see Trick Room plus hard switch Kyogre coming in turn 1, so I'm down to go for it. The dream would be, like, protect Tailwind or double protect turn 1. Nice. I feel like if Roaring Moon is protecting, it's probably also Zacian protect, which means then we get Trick Room up. Okay, this is the dream. This is so good for us. Yeah, that paid off. Okay, beautiful. This now means we can just send it, honestly. It should be really hard for him to come back from that, actually. I can't tell you, like, how big of a move the surprise Trick Room is. So I can definitely... I'm obviously going to Water Terra Water Spout. The main question is what slot I want to target with Flutter Mane. I think probably okay to just Moonblast Moon here. Yeah, I think the cool thing about Ludi Flutter lead is, like, it's so hard to anticipate hard switching Kyogre and Trick Room going up, right? So... Okay, Chien-Pao hits the field. That's fine. Like I said, I was thinking you go Roaring Moon, Zacian, Chien-Pao, plus the Kyogre. So, it indeed was those 4, which is great. Makes sense to maybe try to go for a double protect with Roaring Moon, but I think, yeah, if Amoonguss isn't switching in here, Kyogre, honestly, I think just wins the game for us right now. It just gets way too many Water Spouts off. Beautiful. Icy Wind actually would have been... Okay. I think this is a good game, or a good example of a game of just like a surprise move and Trick Room single-handedly winning us the game. Like turn 1, I risked a little bit in like eating up a Play Rough or an Acrobatics, right, or a double up on a Flutter Mane. But it's like when you face the threat of Fake Out plus Moonblast, for example, it makes sense to protect in the face of the Fake Out pressure. And yeah, I think like Flutter plus the Ludicolo doesn't look like it applies the most amount of pressure, but happens to work out really well for us here. So, Zacian Ogre coming back in. I think you have to protect Zacian here, but I can just Moonblast into Kyogre or Water Spout. Yeah, I think, you know, if this were an open team sheet game, he knew that I had Trick Room, this would probably play out very differently. But I think that's part of, you know, what makes this team so threatening in best of 1 play, which is that you have this element of surprise, and it's incredibly difficult to cover for. And I think it also, like, you know, this Kyogre would not have loved if Amoonguss switched in, because then it could just Spore me under Trick Room, but I think the team that we're using here deters Amoonguss really effectively, right? So, Spout does a ton there. Origin Pulse actually misses, unfortunately, onto our Kyogre. It's Flutter, but we're Sash, so we survived that anyway. And honestly, even if Origin connects, that would have been like, what, 30-ish% maybe? Single target Spout still knocks out Zacian anyway. So, yeah, it's a good example of a game where it's like we have a surprise move, and it just completely turns the tides because you did just never expect it, right? And so, yeah. 2 turns of Trick Room. Yeah, doesn't really matter what we do here. Last Spout. Okay, Zacian goes for the double, but doesn't get it. And Spout will just get the KO here. Cool. I think this game highlights how insane Choice Specs Water Terra Kyogre is, right? It one-shot Roaring Moon, which resists us. And it did 70% to Kyogre as well. So, yeah. But like I said, I think it was really just one-off the element of surprise with Trick Room on turn 1. But part of the thing is it's like, yeah, Ludicolo plus Flutter Mane, I think it's like more likely to lead to a protect situation because you want to respect the Fake Out option. And then so, getting it right on turn 1 essentially won us the game immediately. And so that is cool. Okay, Shadow Rider, Zamazenta, Chi-Yu, Rock, Ogerpon, Whimsicott, Raging Bolt. Feels like a potential Trick Room game. It's kind of scary. Like, I actually think Shreds is interesting here, even without terrain. Because, like, high horsepower is really good. Kyogre is just threatened by so much here. If I'm my opponent, I'm not bringing Chi-Yu into this matchup. I'd probably bring Rock Ogerpon. I mean, there is a world where you don't bring Whimsicott, you just go Rock Pon, Raging Bolt, Shadow Rider, Zama. If it is that, Flutter Koraidon actually suddenly becomes a lot more compelling. Chi-Yu's good here if we can deal with Rock Ogerpon. And then I'll go Kyogre fourth. I thought about Ludicolo. I think, honestly, if they did not have the Whimsicott, I would bring Ludi. Ludi's just, like, not very good if Tailwind is set up, right? Because I'm just outpaced by everything. I don't have Ice Beam either. But it's interesting for the ability to flinch with Fling. Yeah, it ends Whimsicott lead. Okay, cool. That's fine by me. Turn 1 is already interesting, though, honestly. They could obviously Tailwind, Behemoth Bash, Tailwind Body Press, Moonblast is also a possibility. Shadow Rider is like a very scary Pokemon to go up against, so we have to be very careful on how we deal with it. I think I don't mind clicking Trick Room here on turn 1. What's my other option? Like, I could just Icy Wind Flare Blitz, right? Tailwind Protect. Moonblast's option. I'm down to Trick Room Close Combat here. Nice. They Tailwind. And they don't Terra, so this is huge. And they Body Press. Beautiful. Okay, fantastic. Choice Band Close Combat comes out. And that one-shot Zamazenta. That's why you use Choice Band on Koraidon, folks. Incredible. Okay. And we set up Trick Room. That is as good of a start as we can get here. Of course, I'm also normal Terror on the Flutter Mane, but I don't have Shadow Ball. And they're going to bring out Rock Ogerpon. Okay. Encore is obviously an option right now. Actually think I gotta be a little bit careful about eating up an Ivy Cudgel on this slot, right? I think it's fine though if they Cudgel, even if it's the Kyogre. So I'm gonna switch in Kyogre here and Close Combat into Rock Ogerpon. I just want to make sure that they don't get to Encore me right now. No Raging Bolt is huge, by the way, because it means Kyogre just has a much better time in this matchup. Okay, so the good thing here is I don't really need the weather or the sun specifically on Koraidon. Yep, beautiful. They try to Encore us. That fails. You've set up Tailwind, so now I get another Close Combat off. Into Ogerpon. Perfect. We've got Sturdy, obviously. Let's see if they target Koraidon. Yep, perfect. All right, Koraidon has done its job in this game. And it even survives that. Wow. That's impressive. Well, I've KO'd Zamazenta, so I can just go for Water Terra Water Spout now very freely. And I think I'm honestly down to just Water Spout Close Combat here. Like, I don't really need to reset the Koraidon right now, truthfully. And Water Terra here just gives me the extra damage that I probably need to KO the Whimsicott. So I don't see how they stop this, like, onslaught right now. Yep. I'm gonna go for Spiky Shield here, but that's fine. And Light Screen, which is logical, but it's just, I think, impossible for them to come out of this positive, right? And I still have Flutter Mane. which I conserved. So I can just use that to potentially, you know, Icy Wind or Trick Room again in the end game. If you knock out Zamazenta with this team, like, Kyogre just gets to spam Water Spell so freely, right? And, like, even with Light Screen and Resistance, that still does so much to Whimsicott. And then Choice Band Close Combat just KOs. Beautiful. And I think the main thing to respect here is probably going to be the Focus Sash on Shadow Rider. But I think what we can do is just pivot Koraidon now this next turn. So this team is just absolutely deadly, right? And Shadow Rider comes out. I think turn 1, there was obviously the risk of them Moonblasting into me. Like, I think, like, Protect Moonblast could have been kind of scary. But I feel like when you stare down Flutter Koraidon, you normally want to get that Tailwind up immediately. And we still have Chi-Yu in the back as well, which is fantastic. 2 turns of Trick Room left. So I think here I'm happy to just click Water Spout and switch in Chi-Yu. Okay. The one awkward thing here is by switching in Chi-Yu, I obviously turn on Beads of Ruin, but that's honestly fine. It also covers for, like, a defensive Terra Shadow Rider here. They do get the double spiky shield off, but that's fine. I think it's like Flutter and Sun wins me this endgame anyway, right? So my guess is that you're Focus Sash on the Shadow Rider here, but it's still fine. Koraidon obviously couldn't have really done much staying in there. And it's not Sash on the Shadow Rider. Cool. So I guess they were just hoping, hey, I have Light Screen up, maybe I can survive. But with Choice Specs, Water Terror, and Beads of Ruin, it's not going to help them survive. And now we can just Water Spout and Snarl. Yeah. I mean, that was as good as it gets, right? Like, it showed off the power of Koraidon. I think no Terra on their end punished them a good bit. I think turn 1, Zamazenta probably had the opportunity to go for a Terra. But, yeah, I think they were probably thinking, I don't need to go for the Terra because I'll survive an attack from your end. But Choice Band Close Combat in the sun is enough damage to just get that immediate knockout. We also successfully bait them into setting up Tailwind, so it worked out basically perfectly for us, right? So I think the thing is, when you use this team, because Kyogre really wants to click Water Spell and Origin Pulse and it hates clicking Hydro Pump, if you are able to knock out Zamazenta and Wide Guard users early, it's a really, really big deal. So the fact we just eliminated Zama immediately, it was absolutely huge. I think for the Whimsicott and the Zama lead, like, Chi-Yu could have been appropriate. Like, the main thing about Chi-Yu is it just gets body press, and then you need to commit your Terra, and then with Grass Terra, we're still taking a ton of damage from body press, which doesn't feel good. But yeah, I think, like, turn 1 could have been a little bit scarier if they went, like, Protect Moonblast into us, for example. I think that's, like, a possible play. But, like, you risk eating up just, like, Icy Wind and Flame Charge. Now, we don't even have Flame Charge, but that's, like, one play that you might normally expect to see from our end, right? And with this team, you have to be really careful, because if Shadow Rider gets positioned properly, like, you will just lose the game very, very quickly. So in my head, I was like, okay, if they're leading Whimsicott, they'll probably want to set up Tailwind. If I can bait them into setting up Tailwind, Shadow Rider should really struggle if Trick Room is set up, and that's exactly what happened. And honestly, even if they didn't set up Tailwind, like, Trick Room is still valuable for us, because, like, I can outpace the Shadow Rider with multiple things. Miraidon, Zom, Volk, Grim, Hands, Rock, Ogerpon. I will say Grim is one of my least favorite Pokemon to play against with this team, so I'm not loving this. Normally into Miraidon, it's Flutter Treads. I wonder here if it's Ludicolo Kyogre, because I can fake out Grim, Spout. If I were my opponent, like, I would drop Volk. I would go Grim, Rock Pond, Miraidon, Zom, and it'd probably be Grim, Miraidon lead, right? Or maybe it is Treads lead then. Is it just Flutter Treads? Fine. We have a good mix between special and physical damage as well, and so with Flutter Treads, like, I can just threaten a knockout on a Grim turn 1 with Moonblast high horsepower, I think. And yeah, if they go Grim Miraidon, like, I do pressure with AC Wind immediately into Steel Roller or high horsepower. Yep. Okay. I could also just protect high horsepower turn 1. But then they get 2 screens up, and I don't love that. I think I'm going to go Steel Roller onto Grimmsnarl. I actually think Steel Roller Protect is okay turn 1 here. I'm a little bit worried about, like, a unique Grimmsnarl set, like Focus Sash, Cobra Cloak. Or sorry, Focus Sash Fake Out, or Cobra Cloak Fake Out, but they just reflect, which is fine. Yeah, great. Could have been high horsepower there. Wasn't sure if I'd one-shot Miraidon. I also thought they might Terra. But now Steel Roller obliterates Grimmsnarl. Okay, great. So no more terrain, but also that means no more Quark Drive. However, it means I can go for Icy Wind this next turn, or I could just Moonblast, right? That's also an option. Zamazenta comes in. Kyogre Koraidon in the back. You set up a Reflect but not Light Screen, so Kyogre is going to be very crucial. You could obviously body press this. Like, I think I'm down to Ghost Terra right now. And high horsepower. Plus Moonblast. I also thought about Icy Winding, but I think then I do run into the risk of Wide Guard. I think, like, generally this Ghost Terra is pretty good because Miraidon normally is going to be Assault Vest or Specs here. And so that plays a big role. Okay, they don't Terra, they don't switch, but that's... Oh, we almost just one-shot Miraidon. Wow. And it's Iron Defense. Okay, if you're Iron Defense, though, that means probably no Wide Guard, which means I can just Icy Wind into Water Spout, right? But Miraidon surviving is a little bit annoying because it does actually get to pivot out. Ghost Terra is huge here, though, on the treads. And that's hands coming out. Nice. That's so good for us. I mean, this is probably still 2 shots, right? Yeah, let's go. Okay. Nice. Let me think this through, because if you are indeed choiced on the Miraidon, Flutter Mane will just outpace and KO it. I think the main thing here is you probably Terra your Iron Hands. But that's okay, right? Like, even if I lose treads, as long as I have Flutter Mane, and if you don't Terra this... Like, you have to Terra hands right now, right? Because otherwise high horsepower just KOs you. But if you Terra hands, it means you don't Terra Zamazenta, which means Kyogre just hard beats this. So I think it's fine to just click high horsepower here and protect with the Flutter Mane. They don't Terra. Okay, nice. Treads domination. Heavy Slam Flutter, perfect. Beautiful. KO hands. That should be game over. The Iron Defense set is unfortunately very bad for them here because we're double Ghost. Steel Roller is so awesome, though, as a way to eliminate the Grimmsnarl. And yeah, Treads is just like such a good anti-Miraidon Pokemon. It's so awesome. So Quark Drive back up. Just trying to think, is there any way I could lose this? Like, let's say Miraidon actually had Protect. That would be how. I just don't think you are going to have Protect. You're not Life Orb, so then, like, well, I guess it'd be Covert Cloak Protect. That would be the only option. But I think I'm fine just clicking high horsepower here. And actually, I think the one thing I want to cover for is Miraidon being max speed and outspeeding Flutter Mane. I don't think that'll be the case, but okay, they end up forfeiting. Yeah. I think basically, like, my opponent's team falls a little bit short when you don't actually get that much value out of screens, and the fact that I eliminated Grimmsnarl on turn 1 without really losing too much was, like, a really big deal, right? And the fact they were Iron Defense was very good for us because it meant they just wasted a turn with the Zamazenta. It also meant no Wide Guard. I didn't even really click my spread moves here, but it meant that Kyogre also was, like, really good in the end game. And I think we were just off to a really, really good start with the leads, where it's like Grimmsnarl and Miraidon are both really threatened by that Treads. By knocking out the Grimmsnarl meant that they couldn't get a light screen up. No light Scream means I can do more damage, obviously, with Flutter Mane. And then even with the Reflect Up, we still one-shot Grimmsnarl and still basically did, 60+% to hands. So I thought my opponent's best bet was tearing the hands and then hoping that I mess up and then like giving up Flutter Mane. I think would have been their path to maybe coming back into this, but I knew as long as I protected Flutter Mane there, since hands is normally Assault Vested, even if you Terra there, it's fine, right? Because like high horsepower gets enough damage. If you don't knock out the tread, or if you knock out the treads, then I just get an immediate free switch into Kyogre, which is fantastic for us, right? And then I can just like Water Spout, for example, Icy Wind Water Spout. And if you don't knock out the treads, then I can consider like switching Flutter Mane out into Koraidon, getting a knockout onto hands, and then having an end game where I have Flutter Mane to just Icy Wind. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So thank you so much, as always, for joining me. It was really fun to feature this team. I think it is definitely one of the most unique teams that I have played with in this format, and it is not the most intuitive to use, but obviously has a ton of tricks up its sleeve. I think this team is definitely very much optimized for best of one play, so I probably wouldn't bring this to like a open team sheet best of 3 event, but if you're looking for a really fun team to climb the ladder with, that has obviously a very unique Pokemon in Ludicolo, as well as some really crazy sets, I would recommend this one. So yeah, thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.